Welcome to the Artist Academy podcast, the audio version of our Facebook Live series, Art Talk Tuesday. I'm your host, Andrea Earhart, and I am so excited that you're here to catch the weekly replay of my laid-back yet very inspiring conversations with other full-time professional artists. The purpose of this series is to show aspiring artists like you that it is completely possible to make a great career out of this art thing. And if you ever want to join us live and have your questions answered in real time by myself or featured guests, then just hop over to facebook.com/groups/Artist Academy every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'll see you there. This episode is sponsored by the Artist Academy Advanced Membership, a program for artists who want to up-level their art game by taking it from a hobby or a side hustle to a full-time art business. I've been a professional artist for over 5 years with paintings in several different countries and a client list that includes high-profile companies such as Bass Pro, O'Reilly's, Duck Commander, and many, many more. So I figured out what it takes to build an art business, and now my heart is set on teaching aspiring artists like you to do the same. Go to advancedmember.com, that's advancedmember.com to learn more. This week we have Lindsey Kooyman interviewing live. I was drawn to Lindsey's vibrant, psychedelic, trippy style of painting animals. It's kind of similar to my own rainbow style animal paintings, which probably explains why I love her art so much, but I think it's so interesting how two different artists in completely separate cities are drawn to the same kind of style, yet we both put our own spin on it. For a long time, I got so caught up in the idea of, oh, someone has already thought of that, so if they're already doing this style of animal painting or whatever, then I'd be copying them if I did it too. But that's not rational at all. I know several artists who do similar things, and they all execute it very differently. You can tell the difference between his painting and her painting, just like you can tell the difference between mine and Lindsey's paintings, even though they're the same subject and the same style. We both just put our own spin on it. I love Lindsey's positive energy in this episode and how open and honest she is about her art journey. If you're still in the transitioning period between having art as your side hustle and hoping to go full time, then I bet you'll be able to relate to a lot of what Lindsey has to say. Okay, so enough of the intro. I'll press play so you can see what I'm talking about.
Hello.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I was just kind of introing you. I've been following you for a while, and I love your style. It's very similar to my own, and I think that's why I maybe just resonate with it. The rainbowy animals, and I'm like, oh yes. So I sent out an invite to you, and you were like, yeah, I want to be on. I'm like, yes.
I know. I was so excited, and I love your work. I follow you too. We both have a love for colorful animals, so yeah, it's great.
Yes. Yeah, I feel like people like that almost have like a similar personality too, like very kind of uppity, happy,
quirky. Yeah.
If you could just, yes, exactly. If you could just kind of introduce yourself. The first question on here is always, what was the tipping point that took you from hobby to professional artist? But if you could just kind of introduce yourself, maybe just tell a little bit about that, who you are, and just anybody who doesn't follow you already, who's about to, just tell them who you are.
Yeah, my name's Lindsey Kooyman, and I grew up in Dallas, Texas, and I kind of, after high school, lived all over the place trying to find my calling, and I've always been into art since I was younger. It's kind of always been something I'm interested in, I've gotten good response to, and I was just pursuing other things, and art was always that constant that I would go back to. So I went to school in Louisiana, and then I left and I lived in North Carolina for a little bit, and all the while still drawing, just kind of doing it as a hobby. And when I lived in Austin, so I was just kind of living around. When I lived back in Austin, I went to school for skincare, for aesthetics. And I thought, okay,
Okay.
this is something that I'm interested in, and it's hands-on, which I love. And on the side, I was drawing, and I just couldn't really figure out what I wanted to do. And it sort of evolved into a side job where people would say, hey, can you draw my pets, or can you do this for me? And it just kind of, happened organically that way. And I really loved it. It was the one thing I was interested in, and that kept my interest. So I built that up, and now I'm back in Dallas, and here I am. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Well, I feel like that's a very similar story to a lot of people. They're like, well,
Mm-hmm.
I got asked to draw this little thing or this pet or this, and then just kind of like it just kind of goes from there. So like word of mouth was your like starting point
And
more?
it's funny because I've talked to other artists. I know I can't speak for everybody, but for me, I know that it almost feels like it's just a drive. It's not really a choice. It's that one thing that we love to do and we want to make happen. So we're just like, okay, how can we make a career out of this? How can I make, this is what I love. This is kind of where everything I have invested in is right here. So how can I make this work? And it's difficult, but it's definitely worth it. And it's kind of you kind of get addicted to the journey of it, I think. So
Yeah. We have people commenting, and Chrissy says, so true. And I feel like all of us are just like, yep, that's right.
Yeah. I know I was talking to one person, they're like, and they said it perfectly. And I was just like, I think I ignored it for a very long time. I thought this isn't a way for me to make money. This isn't realistic. And those negative thoughts aren't beneficial at all, because right now we live in a time where we really can make it happen. And they were saying, what else am I going to do? And I'm like, yeah, completely. What else am I going to do? This is what I love.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. So what makes up your typical work day, and how many hours do you currently spend painting, do you think?
It kind of changes throughout every day and every week. I try to paint every day. I'm a mom of an awesome 2-year-old daughter. So, yeah, she's great. So
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah. So it's just kind of compartmentalizing my time between my clients with the aesthetic, which I also do from that lash extension. So that's what I do right now on the side. And I love them.
That's a big thing right now.
It is. Yeah. So, and I love my clients as well. So it's making time for them. I would say about 20% of my time I'm doing that. And then 80% I'm doing art. So I would say an average of maybe 2 hours a day, give or take. Sometimes when I have a whole day to do it, I'll knock out 7 hours. Or if I'm feeling if I have a deadline, that'll definitely motivate me.
Yeah.
So once my daughter's in daycare and I kind of have a clear schedule, I'm going to try to make it just sort of a full-time job, like an 8 to 5, where I can just work. But my studio is in my living room. So there are times where I'm in my bed and I can't sleep, and I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm just going to go paint. So it just kind of depends. But I try to touch the canvas every day if I can.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're in the middle of a 100-day challenge where you spend at least 30 minutes a day, painting or drawing or whatever. That's so important. Yeah, I feel like the best ones too. They're like they make themselves paint every day, even though it's not always the most fun thing.
Yeah,
sometimes we have to make ourselves doing it. Yeah. So I love to hear you say that.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely. I think I was reading something on how inspiration, it's kind of like the holy grail to artists, right? We need it, we thrive off of it, but it's not required. And I think that's so important to remember, because when it's there, it's awesome, but don't bank on it. And when you can still work through it, it's a huge thing. And it's sort of just building good habits. So I think that is important.
Definitely true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely habits. Yeah, the habit of just so. Yeah, and also I'm in my spare bedroom right now.
Yeah.
So like your living room, I feel like I thought about getting a studio outside of the home, and I'm like, but I can paint in my pajamas here. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
you know?
Whenever you want. I know. I know when my friends come over, they're like, "What do you do here?" And I'm like, "I paint." It's just like no TV in my living room. My TV's in my bedroom. It's literally just a kitchen, a couch, and then my projects. So
Yeah.
which is awesome. Like you said, I think there's pros and cons. Maybe if you have a studio outside, I've always thought that that would make you more motivated to work because you're there, so you're not distracted.
Mm-hmm.
But I like
Yeah.
the convenience of having it here.
Yeah, definitely. So can you talk us through your painting process? Are there any methods or techniques that you picked up through your years of experience?
Yeah, definitely. I pretty much any material I can get my hands on, I use. So I'm mixed media.
Yeah.
I can't choose. I like it all. I work with oil. I'd say mainly, but I love acrylic as well. So I just blend those. And actually, this sounds kind of weird, but I like calligraphy ink. I think that's helped make colors pop. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll get in the calligraphy bottles, Dr. Phil's is the brand that I've used. And at the bottom, it kind of has this iridescent, like, so if it's blue, it almost has like a sparkly iridescent at the bottom, and I'll mix it up and I'll just put it on blue acrylic that I have on my canvas, and it just kind of makes it pop. That's one thing that I've noticed. Yeah. So I just kind of play around with it. The one thing I always start with the eye of an animal. So that's the one thing I know that I always go off of, and then I feel like
same.
Yeah, and I feel like everything else is just a big experiment.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I feel like why do you start with the eye? Because I feel like that's like where the most detail is, and that's where my patience needs to be, you know?
Yeah, I don't know if it's because it helps us scale it better or just the measurements. I don't know, or maybe it's because that's where we look at people and animals is in their eye. I have no idea. That's a good question because I'm naturally drawn to always doing the eye first. I wonder how it would affect us if we started at the ear or at a different body part and went from there, because we're so used to starting at the eye.
Yeah, I don't know. Interesting. So is there one thing you don't like to paint without?
Yeah, I don't like to paint without linseed oil. I think I use that religiously through my whole entire painting process. It just kind of helps smooth out the surface.
What is that exactly?
Linseed oil, it's
okay.
It's LINDSEED oil, and a lot of times it's for oil or acrylic, and I use it just throughout. And even if you're not a mixed media artist, if you're an oil painter or acrylic painter, it's great. It just helps make the colors a little bit brighter and smooths it out. And so I've noticed a huge difference, like night and day, when I use it and when I don't. So that's something I always use, constantly, actually.
So is that something you mix in, or is something you put on the top? Or
you can mix it in. Okay. You can put it on the top. I like to I'll just put it in a little cup on the side, and so then I'll make my palette. And whenever I go to dip my brush in my oil or acrylic, whatever I'm doing, I'll also just then dip my brush in the linseed oil on when I already have the oil or acrylic on my brush, and then I go paint on the canvas. And a little goes a long way. Yeah, I think you'll love it. I'm always buying that stuff. It's great.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a natural finish to it too, which I like. Like, if you varnish a painting, it kind of already puts that in there for you. And then once you do varnish it, I notice it pops a lot more. So that's something that just kind of I fell in love with when I tried it. But yeah, you should try it. Okay, I think you'll like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Yeah. Last week, Brooke, she had this palette that she highly recommended. It has like a lid on it, and it has like a sponge in it too, to where it like keeps it like moist inside there. So like her acrylic paints last forever. So I love your guys' answers. So everybody's
that's really cool.
Answer is so different. Like Yeah, hers is a palette and yours is this, and I'm like, I'm gonna pick up both of those things. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
and I think that's so important is talking about it. We can always learn more things from each other. Like, there's always things to learn and tips to share. So
Yeah.
I'll have to look for
Where
that.
do you usually get yours? Olga asked, Thomas said you could get it at Walmart, but do you get it? Where do you get it?
Linseed oil. I can just get mine at Michael's or any art store, Walmart. I didn't know Walmart had it actually.
Yeah.
That's cool. I'm gonna have to try that.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty easy. It's in the paint section. So, and they have different kinds as well. And I just get the one for oil and acrylic.
Oh, okay. Oh, that I'm surprised that you can use it for both since they're so different.
Yeah. I do, I don't know if you're supposed to. I do it.
Okay.
It works. It could say on my bottle right now for specifically oil, and I'm just like, all right.
That's awesome. Whatever works for you.
Yeah.
Let's see. Are there any lessons that you've learned the hard way with painting?
Oh yeah. I think I learn a lesson the hard way every month. But probably probably pricing is always hard as an artist. You want to give everyone your art. You want to make it affordable for everybody, but you also don't want to gyp yourself or just give yourself that credit. You put a lot of time in it. I think the one thing I've never regretted keeping a painting because I wanted a certain amount for it, but I have regretted letting a painting go and feeling like it was worth more. And it's almost not even about the money in a way. It's like you just have this attachment for that piece that you poured your soul into and your time into. And it's hard. I think that was the hardest lesson I learned, is how to price my work and how to say no. How to say no is a big one that I think a lot of people struggle with, including myself. Know your limit. And
including myself as well.
It's hard. You want to be able to do everything for everyone, but you just can't. And we only have two hands, so we can only work so fast. But that's a big one too.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think I'm still working on that. But that's a lesson I keep learning is how to say no. And I never regret doing things for people. Don't get me wrong. But it's just more time efficient if you plan out your projects ahead of time.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Have you made like a certain pricing structure that works for you? Like maybe like $1 per square inch or a dollar amount per square inch, or like a sizing, or just do you do your time? Is that your pricing structure?
I usually do time and materials that I put into it. So how big the canvas is, how long it's going to take me, is usually how I price it. I haven't really done the square inch. I've heard of that method, but I usually stick to how much money I spend on materials, how much materials go into it, the size of the canvas, and then how much time I'm working on it. And
that's exactly what I do.
Yeah, and it's kind of hard to tell until the very end. Like you can work with a certain price range, and go from there, but it's hard to tell how long you're going to spend on a piece until you're done with it. I know if I have a piece, I joke because I tell people I will turn my paintings around when they're done so I don't see them, because I will continuously work on it. It never looks finished to me. So there'll be something about it where I'm like, oh, I can add this to it, or more can be done over here. And I just turn around. I'm like, I can't look at it.
Yeah, that's a really good idea, actually, because sometimes they just sit around and you're like eyeing it, when you should be doing something else.
Yeah, that's another thing about having it in your home. You'll be eating cereal, staring at your painting, like, should I add more blue?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Also, I was going to ask, with your rainbow animals, do you have like a method that you use for that? Because like with rainbows, I found out in the beginning, it's so easy for it to look a mess really quick,
Yeah.
like almost just like, and I feel like there needs to be like strategy behind it. And people don't even realize that I didn't realize at first that there's a strategy behind it, whether using like cool colors, warm colors. Do you like do your black first, or what's your like rainbow animal technique?
Um, so that's a good question. I normally, I feel like I use every color in all of it, but a lot of it comes from, so my inspiration comes from wildlife photographers. I think mainly I'll see a photo and I love it. And then I just kind of, I feel like there's almost like colors within colors within colors. Like if you look at a purple, you can see shades of blue or shades of lighter purple. And you just kind of go from there and you play with it. And that's sort of what I do. So I'll take the natural tones from a photo that I see and then I'll just go from there and play with it. Like my lion, I did sort of a glitchy thing with it where there's 4 eyes.
Trippy.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
went, yeah. And that one, I just played around until I felt like it was where I wanted it. And that's another thing. I think it's just having confidence in your painting and doing what you want to do and knowing that, okay, if this isn't looking exactly how I want it to right now, I'm just going to keep working with it, keep playing with it, walk away from it if you need to, and then come back to it. And that's kind of what I do. I almost don't even, I have an idea of how a painting will look going into it, but it's always a little bit different than I envisioned it in the beginning.
Yeah, definitely.
So with the rainbows,
I can so relate to that.
Yeah. And so with the rainbow colors, I just kind of play off of what I have and then just keep going from there and adding more.
That's awesome. Yvette just chimed in. She goes, your rainbow animals are really cool. Love the buffalo and the trippy lion also.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Let's see. Do you have a favorite past project? Is it the lion? Because that's my favorite. But what's your favorite past project?
I like all of them, but I think my favorite might be one that I did called Miso's Ego, which is the panther. And I think mainly because it was kind of the turning point in my art where I feel like it's that one is the one that really got me into painting animals specifically. So, I mean, I've always just dabbled with everything, but I would say that one. But it's a close call. I think every artist has a love for every painting they make.
Yeah, definitely. Do you find it hard to like let paintings go when you sell them, or not so much?
Yeah, I mean, it's bittersweet, but I am mainly happy because I'm just happy that someone loves it so much and wants to give it a good home, and that I'm able to do what I love to do. So if anything, it just makes me feel really grateful.
Okay, so we were talking about your panther, and
I think I think that one, if I have to choose a favorite, it would be the panther, but it's a close call. Yeah. What's your favorite one? Do you have a favorite one that you've painted?
Oh, I don't know. Really feel like I'm
it's hard.
I really like the rainbow zebra because that was like a transition point for me from like normal animals to rainbow animals, and I was like so scared to do that, thinking that people wouldn't take me seriously if I was painting rainbow animals, thinking I was childish. And so I wanted to do that for a year, and I just didn't. So I was like, no, like nobody's gonna take me seriously. And then I did it, and everybody loved it. I was like, whew.
It was like a weight lifted off your shoulders. Yeah, and it's an awesome piece. So you had it in the back of your mind, and you finally made it happen.
Yeah,
that is
people
awesome.
Accepted it. So I'm such a big advocate of people like doing what they really love. Like people are like, no, but people are buying this, and I'm like, no, like do what you love. Like
you're so right, and I think that people can tell that you love to do it, right? When you put your passion and your soul into it, and then you kind of paint for yourself, and then people catch on to that. So.
Yeah, and you're just more excited in your captions. It's overall like a better thing.
It's just you put more yourself into it.
Yeah, it's so funny that people are so scared to do it, that I was too. Like
Yeah,
also like I knew that there were a couple other people doing rainbow animals like you, and like do you follow Sophie T art? She does like
I
some
think I
rainbow
do.
animals
I
too.
think I
She does,
do. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And so I
I
saw
think
her
I know.
doing it, and I was like, well, yeah. I was like, she's already doing it, so I can't do it. And I was like, that's not real.
Yeah. I think those are all natural reactions. Like everyone's scared to put themselves out there and be judged. But then once you do it, you're like, oh, that wasn't that bad. You know,
Yeah, like, and
I
also
actually like
nobody
this.
really cares as much as we think. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. They don't. Yeah, that's funny. That's so true though. We are our worst critics for sure.
So true. It's just good, like, just saying it out loud for people, just a reminder, like,
It
you are
is.
your worst critic.
You are.
Um, what are your future plans and goals? Or you have any upcoming paintings that you're working on that you love, or like any commissions, or what's going on in the world of Lindsey and Dallas?
Yeah, I have a skyline of Dallas actually I'm working on, and I'm really excited because it's the first painting I've done that isn't an animal in a while. Which I mean, I love doing animals, but it's a little different. So
Yeah.
I actually haven't done a skyline on canvas before. So this is going to be my first one. I've done it on watercolor a long time ago, but this will be my first actual painting. So I'm really excited about that. And then I have a couple animal
That's
commissions I'm working on as well on the
yeah.
side.
That's
So
nice to be able to switch it up too, and
it
like, because
is.
just to not get burnt out
Mm-hmm.
one thing.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of keeps inspiration alive and it keeps you going. So I feel like I don't know. I always have three projects going at once. Do you ever feel like that where you're just working on kind of like your mind is all over the place?
Yes, and then once you like finish those three, you're like, I can breathe, and
Yeah.
then you just get three more. I feel like
Yeah,
you just
yeah,
start.
exactly. Yeah, never ending cycle. But it's great. I think it's kind of
Yeah.
addictive too.
Yeah. Yeah. You like you crush one goal, and you're like, okay, bring on the next one, and then you just yeah.
Yeah.
Um. So, is there any advice you would give artists who want to make art their full-time career, but just don't know where to start? Like, what's a good like starting point for someone who's just maybe a hobby artist or a part-time or something who really just wants to just give it a go?
I think, you know, as it sounds so simple, but just starting, it's really hard to find a perfect time because I think actually doing it and putting yourself out there, you learn as you go. I think with a career like this, it's hard to have all your ducks in a row and just be like, okay, now I'm ready. You know, I did my first print release in January of the Bison, and I was so nervous, and I knew going into it that there was going to be things that I looked at and I was like, okay, I want to change this. I want to do this differently next time. This didn't go as planned. So it's doing it um, and having confidence and faith in yourself. And I think being comfortable with the idea, because failure is inevitable. You're going to mess up. And it's just getting
Mhm.
comfortable with that. So just put yourself out there, whether it's doing it on the weekends or whenever you have free time. And it's just kind of going from there. And I feel like with art, it's hard to have a clear path. You just sort of get opportunities as you go. So, and, and,
Yeah.
but you'll definitely find your way. You just have to have fun with it. Don't put too much pressure on yourself and go for it.
Definitely. That's great advice to just start. 'Cause I
Just
think
start.
even like to relate to that in the beginning when I just started, I like had it in my head that I needed to like meet a whole lot of people doing like this
Yeah.
other business that I was doing. And I was like, one day I'll start it. And then once I did like one big painting, like people started to hear about it, and I did another, and I was like, well, I should just start it a long time ago, like instead of
Yeah.
waiting for this perfect moment that's
Ex-
never gonna happen, you know?
exactly. I think we get in our heads
Yeah.
and we think, oh, now's not a good time. Now's not a good time. But then you notice whenever you do it, you're like, oh, this isn't that bad. And so you just keep
Yeah.
going for it and it works out for you. And I think anything that you really have a lot of passion and drive into, it's going to work out eventually. When you may hit some speed bumps and have some curveballs thrown at you, but in the long run, it'll be worth it.
Definitely. Yes, I love your answer. It's so simple, but like maybe something people just need to hear, like, and everybody at one point needs to hear too. I love it. Very
Yeah,
well
I
said.
mean, it's great to be prepared. Don't get me wrong. Do a little bit of research. One
Yeah, but
thing, one thing that I did is I looked at artists who I admire and kind of saw what their business strategies were. Kind of looked at their websites. Okay, how did they do this, or how did they do that, or how do they interact with people, or what shows do they do? And I think that was a good guideline. So that's what I did. Is I just sort of checked out artists that I personally admire and I like their work and things that have been working for them, and just tried to apply it with my own strategy and make it work for me. So just pick and choose what works best for you and your schedule.
definitely, yeah. Even that, like, look at what other people are doing kind of a thing, and
Yeah.
even copying, but like, no, I feel like people, it even goes back to like the rainbow animal thing. Like, we can look at other people and see what they're doing and like copy in a way, but you still make it your own.
Yeah.
And that's just another thing. Like, the people don't worry about copying other people just because they're going to these shows. Like, you can do it too. You're going to do it in your own way, kind of a thing. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Everybody's journey is different. And I think also talking to other artists about it, like we are right now, it makes a huge difference as well.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for giving your time, and I'm so glad that we got
Thank
through all
you.
these text glitches.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're so fine.
And
So fine.
honestly, I feel like anything that I touch that's technology breaks. So this is just perfect. It's but thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad I got to virtually meet you, and we
You
will stay
too.
in touch on Instagram and all
Absolutely.
those things.
Yes. Yes, we will.
All right.
Have a
Bye.
good night. Bye.
See ya.
This episode is sponsored by the Artist Academy Advanced Membership, a program for artists who want to up-level their art game by taking it from a hobby or a side hustle to a full-time art business. I've been a professional artist for over 5 years, with paintings in several different countries and a client list that includes high-profile companies such as Bass Pro, O'Reilly's, Duck Commander, and many, many more. So I figured out what it takes to build an art business, and now my heart is set on teaching aspiring artists like you to do the same. Go to advancedmember.com, that's advancedmember.com to learn more. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Also, if you ever want to join us live and have your questions answered in real time by myself or featured guests, then just hop on over to facebook.com/groups/Artist Academy every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I'll see you next week.